This Bubba Exotic Motorsports production is brought to you in part by Blog Talk Radio, host of our #1 rated internationally syndicated automotive podcast as heard on the Bubba's Motorsports Network, and by Schumacher Chevrolet, SchumacherAuto.com, Schumacher.com, SchumacherAuto.com, and finally by Robertson Racing LLC.com, RobertsonRacingLLC.com. Visit them for all your lubricant needs. Hey, good morning, everybody. We're coming to you live from inside the main facility here at Bubba's Exotic Motorsports. Bub, good morning. How you doing today?
I'm doing really good so far, man. It's been a long day already this morning, as always, from 6 to 11, freaking 100 people and just getting stuff done, but we've got it going.
We got it going, don't we, Bub? Hey, Bub, we're bringing you part 2 of what we started yesterday. We're talking a little bit about motor builds and motor replacements, engine swaps, if you will. And we talked about the way you kind of go through, even on a brand new crate motor, you go through everything and make sure it's 100% correct before you even attempt to install it.
Yeah, it's, just with anything I do, even though, today's quality of most parts out there is pretty solid, there's still some guys that miss certain things when they send out new products. And I'm talking brand new items. We have a lot of times where, we'll buy brand new stuff and it'll come in and sure enough, we put it on and we find out there's a problem with a brand new part. So I always go through, especially in this case, doing such an intensive job like this, I'll go through and take the time and check the motor out, even though it's a brand new motor. I'll go through it and check, make sure everything was done right, everything's torqued, that everything is sealed, there's no leaks anywhere. Since I'm already in there, I'm already working on it, I'm already taking care of it, I'm through a big part of the labor already, I might as well check it 100% and go all the way. And then that way when I put this thing back in here, which it's in now, the client can take it and then go down the road and I don't have to worry or pull it back apart in 2 weeks, 3 weeks because somebody screwed up on somebody else's thing.
And Bub, you know what? You've made tremendous gains just since yesterday. You are the one who likes to touch everything in your business. You like, as an owner-operator, to see every facet of what goes on here at Bubba's Exotic Motorsports. And you can see more of that at BubbasExoticMotorsports.com. There are YouTube videos up there. There are all kinds of clips up there. There's all kinds of good stuff to keep you guys connected here with us, right? Yeah. Bub, as I look back kind of over your shoulder here, I see a very neat and clean installation job. I know you found that part of the reason you had such a major oil leak on this motor is the previous installer crushed something underneath the valve cover gasket and destroyed it, and there was just oil leaking out of it.
Yeah, it's the maintenance side is, we discussed it a little bit yesterday, but for those of you who weren't watching our part 1 of this yesterday, when I was actually building the engine over here, with these fleet vehicles, they're very neglected. They are. People just get in them, they drive them, your employees drive them, your workers, and you don't stay up to the true maintenance of what it should be. And that was very, very much the case here with this one. The motor had overheated to a point where the water pump had locked up, the bearings locked up or froze up in the front of the water pump, so it caused it to lock up, and then that caused the engine to overheat, and they just kept driving on it, which blew the head gasket. Then that allowed the water to get down inside the oil pan. They continued to keep driving on it, which washed out the bearings in the motor. So essentially, it was either a full rebuild on that motor or just pull it, stick a brand new one in it, due to nothing more than neglect and just not taking care of your stuff. And that's exactly what we found here in every facet of it, really, between the oil leaks, between the coolant issues, between all of the drivetrain problems, the mounts that were broken, everything.
And Bob, I was going to go to that. Your mounts were broken on that as well. So you found a lot of little things. I think it's neat to note that even though this is a new motor, some of the external things, like the throttle body and the intake, those are all, you're going to remain with the stock ones. You're going to clean up the throttle body so that it's nice and clean. It functions very smoothly. You don't want any binding with carbon deposits or anything like that. But you went as far as you purchased new upper and lower radiator hoses as well. Because you don't want to leave any of the old components subject to wear and breaking.
Well, again, that's just a big part of it, especially for all these guys out there. So there's a lot of do-it-yourselfers that do motor swaps just on their own time. There are guys that try it in, older Mustangs, stuff that's a lot easier to deal with and work with. But just in doing that kind of stuff, there's certain things you just want to take the time and replace it while you're there. And, the example of changing your radiator hoses. If you're all your fluid's already out, don't just slap the other ones back on because you're in a rush and you want to hear the new motor run, and then you have another one coming. All you're doing is making a bigger mess for yourself and risking something going wrong. So go through, take the time, do it right, change your hoses, change out, make sure all the thermostat's new, the water pump is new. On a brand new system, you want the best cooling system possible. Flush everything out so it's clean. There's no rust in the radiator. If there is, buy a new one or have it redone. Really, that's it. Just, make sure that you go all the way. Put on new components, don't rush it. that's really my best advice.
So, Bub, what are you kind of down to left now? You've got the motor inside. I see your wiring harness is tied back neatly out of the way. Everything's moved out of your way. You removed the radiator so that the motor came up and out very easily and reinstalled in a very easy way. You don't have any wires in the way. You don't have any dipsticks in the way. You don't have any coolant lines in the way. Nothing's in your way. So what do you have left now to finish her up?
So right now I'm down to the way I like to do motor installs is I install the engine assembly itself, get that in, I get it on the mounts. Before I even tighten the mounts down, I get it mounted up to the bell housing on the transmission properly, whether it's auto or manual. Once I have those dowel pins set up and everything's flushed together, I go ahead and torque all of those bolts properly so the motor is bolted to the bell housing. Once those are done, then I make sure that everything as an assembly bolted together, motor and transmission, sits exactly in the mounts where they should. Tighten those down, which is what's done. Then I just finish everything underneath. I do the starter, I do the exhaust, I do all my ground and power cables. I just, all the cross members, everything goes in on the bottom side. So now essentially I'm done underneath of this truck. The only thing I have left is what is in this engine bay, which is my wiring harnesses on the left and the right banks of the motor, putting on the power steering pump with the serpentine belt, and doing my final electrical connections, plug in one line for the fuel rails, hook up the air conditioning pressure and return lines, go ahead and vacuum and charge the system, and then put the radiator in, do all my fluids, do a final QC on everything, start it up.
And what do you think, Bub? How much longer do you think you'll need on this install here?
I mean, realistically, if I go slow, it would take me an hour, but I'm moving through it pretty solid in maybe 30 minutes, 40 minutes.
And I think, Bub, a lot of the preparation that you do up front is
Oh,
what
it pays
allows
off
you
right
to
now,
do
yeah.
what gives you your dividend on the backside, tying everything back out of the way, identifying all your. You're very sculpted in the fact that you have me take pictures of every piece of everything. So if there's a question, you can go back to it and look at the photographic documentation of what goes where, and that everything's back in its original loom and its original keeper out there. And then what you have is a very stock-looking appearance when it's done. If someone looks at your work, you can see it's clean work, it's neat work, it's tidy work, and it's all back where it belongs.
Right, and that's and that's really where you see that so much, especially with just like these quick lube places, or just places that change.
Yep, sure do.
And that's not a brand. I don't know if that's even a company, so I'm not shooting at that company if that is. But just the people that have these quick overhaul shops where you just go and get an oil change done, but sometimes they can change your motor if there's a problem. You just find that the quality of work that's done there is not that way. It's when they take a motor out and they stick a motor in, they don't care where if this factory wiring harness mount was here, it's now 2 spots over here. Things just aren't put back where they should go. And me personally, I feel like if you're going to do this much work, take the time, do it right, give it the quality of what the dealership would have done. I mean, you're putting a brand new engine in, so why would you not go all the way?
And I noticed yesterday, I see you've got it on there now, but yesterday you had me clean the valve covers up. There was somebody used silicone on these instead of getting the correct valve cover gaskets. Another reason they were leaking very badly. And as I was cleaning all the silicone out of the grooves where the correct valve cover gasket should sit and seat inside of, as I was cleaning all of that out, one of the wire loom keepers came off. And you were very anal about that. You wanted it to go back exactly where it went, which was on number 1 cylinder, right? Number 2, and you wanted it exactly where it was supposed to be. And so you went back and looked at the pictures just to find out where this one plastic clip went.
Well, I mean, that's the way to do it. It's when you go through and you're putting this much time into something, why would you rush it and just put something back wherever you kind of think it goes? There's a lot of guys that do that in terms of ground wires. They'll just take something and they'll stick it over here, and it really was supposed to be over here. So then you have, maybe a clearance issue, maybe with the motor flex, it pulls the ground cable. There's all these different issues that could come up from just taking the time and not doing it properly versus getting it done right. Installing everything exactly where it should be, the way the factory did it. They designed it that way for a reason. They weren't just playing around with parts. So I copy it, I put it back in, and it's ready to go. And
I noticed, Bub, one of the other things too is, even though you had a bad clutch fan, not a bad water pump in here, you went ahead and took the time and replaced your idler tensioner and your idler pulleys in here as well. Why would you do that?
Well, all of these, all the components here on the front of the motor, actually, the fan clutch itself mounted to the water pump, and also the idler pulley and tensioner assembly over here on the passenger side. Every one of these actually had play in it, and I wasn't willing to, again, go this far. I'm already here, and not put another $150 in parts into the thing to make sure that it's right, so that it's not 5 months down the road, the whole front of the motor comes apart again. Because if this happens, if the tensioner comes off, same thing. That's what powers the water pump, which would put us right back in the same boat where we started. If one of those came off, the belt came off, and then it stops spinning the water pump, it would overheat, there goes this motor.
So if there were a client that were to say to you, Bub, well, I really don't want to put any more money into the motor, your response would be what?
There's going to be no warranty at that point. I mean, if you fail to neglect on taking care of something, you know, it's people that get diagnosed with cancer and you're still smoking. It's the same deal. Like, you know there's a problem, why are you not fixing it?
Interesting analogy. So you always go the extra mile, and that is certainly one of the things you're known for and what separates you from everybody else, Bub.
Yeah.
You do go the extra mile, man. So we're going to skip back in here, Bub. You know, I know we got to get Bud and those fluids in this thing. Robertson Racing is going to put their fluids up in this thing for us, get us on the road here shortly. We'll give everybody an update tomorrow and let them know how this came out. I think you're doing a great job, man.
Yep.
Any words of advice to anybody out there, Bub, as we close this segment out about how to do it right, man?
Yeah, I mean, just with everything, you know, take your time, do your research, be very careful when you're working with this kind of stuff if you are a do-it-yourselfer at the house. You know, we're super clean here at the facility, everything is spotless. And you know, there's still always mistakes that happen. I mean, for example, yesterday I actually cut my hand really bad on the motor, and that's just because of the aluminum materials. Today's motors, a lot of them are all aluminum, and they're very, very sharp. They're not rounded corners, they're not smooth, they are just pressed out, and that's the way it is. So make sure if you guys are working with aluminum, a lot of these guys with the new LS motors, you can cut your hand wide open on the valve cover taking you.
Be very careful. That's good advice. And Bub has been incident-free for over 10 years. So little things happen when you least expect them to happen. So always try to anticipate and think ahead. Plan into your next step. Build clean. Every nut and bolt on this motor is turned the same way. Everything has a north-south index on it, down to the valve covers, to the exhaust manifold. Everything's the same way, isn't it?
Yep.
It's consistency. So build clean, build consistent. If you have questions, call us at 561-748-2926 or email us sales@bubbasexoticmotorsports.com, and we'll answer those questions. We'll even interact with you live here during the show. If you have a question, you're welcome to shoot a question in, and we'll help you as well.
Absolutely.
Right? So we're going to jump back into this thing, Bub. We're going to want to reach out and touch everybody's life in a positive way today. It doesn't matter what you do, whether you open a door, give somebody $1 to get something to eat. Let's do something positive to make the world a better place out there. And Bub, until tomorrow.
Just keep on doing it Bubba style.
Let's keep on doing it Bubba style. Okay, Bub, let's get back to work on this thing, man.
All right, I got to go in here now.
You want me to get the radiator?
No, I'm nowhere near ready for that.
All right, so what are you ready to do?